My friends, we live in an age that celebrates greatness. Everyone wants to be great. Everyone wants to achieve great things, to be recognized, to be admired, to leave their mark on the world. We celebrate great leaders, great artists, great athletes, great entrepreneurs. We tell our children they can achieve greatness if they work hard enough, if they believe in themselves, if they never give up, and there is truth in this. Greatness is possible. Ordinary people can accomplish extraordinary things. History is full of examples. But what we do not talk about enough, what we often ignore completely, is the cost of greatness. We see the glory but not the burden. We see the achievement but not the sacrifice. We see the crown but not the weight it places on the head that wears it. We see the throne but not the sleepless nights that come with sitting upon it. Today, I want to talk to you about that cost, about that burden, about that weight. The price of greatness is responsibility. This is not a popular message. People want to hear about the rewards of greatness, not the price you must pay for it. They want to know about the fame, the respect, the influence, the power, the legacy. They do not want to hear about the sleepless nights, the agonizing decisions, the criticism, the loneliness, the constant weight of knowing that your choices affect not just yourself but countless others. But if you truly want greatness, if you truly aspire to achieve something significant with your life, then you must understand and accept this fundamental truth. Greatness and responsibility are inseparable. They are two sides of the same coin. You cannot have one without the other. You cannot take the crown without accepting the weight. You cannot sit on the throne without accepting the burden. Let me begin by explaining what I mean by responsibility. I am not talking about the simple responsibilities that all adults have: paying your bills on time, showing up to work when expected, keeping your promises, taking care of your family. These are the basic obligations of decent living. The responsibility that comes with greatness is something different entirely. It is heavier, more complex, more demanding, more unrelenting. It is the responsibility that comes from power, the responsibility that comes from influence, the responsibility that comes from being in a position where your decisions affect the lives of others, sometimes the lives of many others, sometimes the lives of millions of others. When you achieve greatness, when you rise to a position of leadership, when you gain influence and power, you become responsible for more than just yourself. You become responsible for those who follow you, who trust you, who depend on you, who look to you for guidance and direction. Every decision you make ripples outward, touching lives in ways you may never fully see or understand. That is the weight of responsibility that greatness brings. I know this weight intimately. I have carried it for most of my adult life. When I became Prime Minister in 1940, Britain was facing the greatest crisis in its history. France had fallen, Europe was conquered, Hitler's armies were preparing to invade. Our cities were being bombed, our people were afraid, and I had to make decisions every single day that would determine whether Britain survived or fell, whether we remained free or became slaves. Every choice I made had consequences. When I decided that Britain would fight on rather than negotiate with Hitler, I knew I was condemning thousands of British soldiers and civilians to death. I knew that bombs would keep falling. I knew that ships would keep sinking. I knew that mothers would lose sons, wives would lose husbands, children would lose fathers. I knew all of this, and I chose to fight anyway, because I believed it was necessary, because I believed that some things are worth dying for. That decision has haunted me every day since, not because I believe it was wrong, but because I understand its cost. when I ordered the Royal Navy to attack the French fleet at Mers-el-Kibir to prevent those ships from falling into German hands, I killed over 1,000 French sailors who had been our allies just weeks before. That decision was one of the most painful of my life, but it had to be made. The risk of those ships being used against us was too great, but I will carry the weight of those deaths for the rest of my life. When I had to allocate scarce resources, deciding which fronts would receive reinforcements and which would have to manage with what they had, I knew that men would die because of the choices I made about where to send help and where not to send it. Every choice meant life for some and death for others. This is what responsibility looks like when you achieve greatness. You must make decisions knowing that people will suffer, that people will die because of the choices you make. You must live with the consequences of those decisions. You must carry the weight of them for the rest of your life. This is the price of greatness, and you pay it every single day in every decision, large or small. Some people imagine that great leaders make decisions easily, that they are so confident and certain that they never doubt themselves, never question their choices, never lie awake at night wondering if they made the right call. This is nonsense, complete nonsense. The greater the leader, the more they feel the weight of responsibility, the more they understand the consequences of their choices, the more they doubt, the more they question, the more they agonize. I have spent countless nights unable to sleep running through decisions in my mind, questioning my choices, wondering if I could have done something different, something better. This is the burden that greatness brings. This is the price you pay. Now, you might be thinking that this only applies to political leaders or military commanders, that this is a special burden that only falls on those who lead nations in wartime, but you would be wrong. The principle applies to anyone who achieves greatness in any field. The scale may be different, but the principle is the same. If you become a great businessman, you become responsible for your employees and their families. Your decisions about the company, about hiring and firing, about expansion or contraction, about which markets to enter and which to leave, these decisions affect whether people can feed their children, whether they can pay their rent, whether they can send their kids to school. That is responsibility. If you become a great teacher, you become responsible for shaping young minds. The way you teach, the values you model, the standards you set, the encouragement you give or withhold, these things will affect your students for the rest of their lives. Some will succeed because of you. Some may fail because of you. That is responsibility. If you become a great doctor, you hold human lives in your hands. Your decisions, your skills, your attention to detail, your willingness to keep learning and improving, these things determine whether people live or die, whether they recover or suffer. That is responsibility. If you become a great artist or writer or musician, you have responsibility for the ideas you spread, for the emotions you evoke, for the influence you have on culture and society. Your work will shape how people see the world, what they believe, what they value. That is responsibility. Greatness in any field brings responsibility proportional to your influence. The greater your achievements, the heavier your burden. The more people you touch, the more weight you carry. This is unavoidable. This is the price. This is why many people, when they begin to approach greatness, when they begin to taste real success, turn back. They realize the weight they will have to carry, and they decide it is not worth it. They choose comfort over greatness. They choose security over influence. They choose an easy life over a meaningful one. I do not judge them harshly for this. The weight is real. The burden is heavy. Not everyone can carry it, and not everyone should be expected to. There is no shame in choosing a simpler path. But I am speaking today to those of you who do want greatness, who do aspire to achieve something significant, who do want to make a real difference in the world. And I am telling you that you must count the cost before you commit. You must understand what you are accepting. You must know that the path to greatness is paved with responsibility, and that responsibility never ends, never lightens, never goes away. Let me be specific about what this responsibility looks like in practice so you know exactly what you are signing up for. First, when you achieve greatness, you lose the luxury of thinking only about yourself. Every decision must consider others. When I made choices during the war, I could not think about what was best for Winston Churchill. I could not think about my comfort, my safety, my reputation, my legacy. I had to think about what was best for Britain. My personal preferences became irrelevant. The responsibility I carried demanded that I put the nation first, always in every decision. This is what greatness requires. You must be willing to sacrifice your own interests for the greater good. You must be willing to endure personal hardships so that others can be spared. You must be willing to make yourself uncomfortable so that those who depend on you can be safe. Your life is no longer entirely your own. It belongs in part to those you serve. Second, greatness means accepting criticism and blame, especially when things go wrong. When you are in a position of leadership, people will blame you for every failure, every setback, every disappointment, even when the failure was not your fault. Even when you did everything right but circumstances worked against you, even when the problem was caused by someone else entirely, you will be blamed because you are the leader, because you are responsible. During the war, every military defeat was blamed on me. Every loss, every mistake by any commander anywhere in the world. The newspapers criticized me. Parliament questioned me. The public doubted me. And I had to accept this criticism even when it was unfair, even when it was based on incomplete information, even when it hurt, because that is part of responsibility. You get blamed when things go wrong, even when you did everything possible to prevent it. And often you do not get credit when things go right, because success is assumed to be inevitable. This is part of the price. Third, greatness means making difficult decisions with incomplete information. You will rarely have all the facts you need. You will rarely have time to gather more data. You will rarely have the luxury of certainty. But you must still decide, and you must live with the consequences of being wrong. During the war, I made decisions about military strategy, about troop deployments, about resource allocation, often with very limited intelligence. I did not know where all enemy forces were positioned. I did not know what Hitler would do next. I could not predict how battles would unfold, but I could not wait for perfect information. I had to decide based on what I knew, understanding that I might be wrong, understanding that people might die because of my mistakes. That is responsibility. Fourth, greatness means enduring loneliness. The higher you rise, the fewer people can truly understand what you are going through, the weight you carry, the decisions you face, the burden you bear. These things separate you from others. You cannot share everything with everyone. Some decisions must be made alone. Some burdens must be carried alone. This is the loneliness of leadership. Now let me speak directly to those of you who are young, who are just beginning your journey. You may look at great people and envy them. You may want what they have. But ask yourself, are you willing to pay what they paid? Are you willing to accept the responsibility that comes with greatness? Are you willing to sacrifice your comfort, your privacy, your peace of mind? Are you willing to be criticized, to be blamed, to be misunderstood? Are you willing to make decisions that will keep you awake at night? If the answer is no, there is no shame in that. Choose a different path. Live a good life without seeking greatness. Be content with doing your work well, loving your family, serving your community in small ways. There is dignity and worth in such a life. But if the answer is yes, if you are willing to pay the price, then pursue greatness with your whole heart. Accept the responsibility that comes with it. Embrace the burden, carry the weight, and know that the price, though high, is worth paying, because greatness, real greatness, changes the world. It lifts others up. It makes things better. It leaves a legacy that endures. And that, my friends, is worth any price The price of greatness is responsibility. Accept it, embrace, pay it gladly, because in the end, there is no greater privilege than to serve something larger than yourself. There is no greater honor than to carry a burden for the benefit of others. There is no greater achievement than to use your gifts, your talents, your position to make the world better than you found it. That is greatness. That is responsibility. That is the life worth living. Thank you.